Welcome to this short video on leveraging social media platforms to build communities of practice. My name is Rhonda Honke, and I want to take you with me through a learning journey today. We'll start with me identifying the challenge or learning problem that was presented to me by our CEO. Then I'll share key learnings I was able to capture from my research on the topic before sharing with you how I'm going to apply that learning to address our problem. The challenge posed to me by our CEO was a single but loaded question. Can we use social media to create, sustain, and leverage an online community of practice for participants in our innovation certification programs? Now, these programs are quite intense and require participants to complete online modules, attend an in-person application lab session, and apply their learning on the job through a series of assignments. During the course of their certification, they have access to one of our team members as a coach. The challenge is that once certification is attained, access to coaching ceases, but the learning only deepens with additional practice. So why are we looking at a community of practice? Well, there are three main reasons. The first is because the methodology we teach is very complex, and no one really gets it all the first time around. The second is because we've trained over 200 people through various cohorts that are very willing to support each other with examples and suggestions for on-the-job application. The third reason is because some of our more experienced practitioners are now starting to construct their own tools that can be shared and built upon by others, but only if they're aware of them. It is that focus on constructivism, including teaching presence, cognitive presence, and social presence, that we want to inspire and foster beyond the classroom. That said, can social media help us create that kind of a sharing environment through a community of practice? To evaluate if it would be helpful, I first explored the framework for social media and e-learning, which consisted of these 7 themes. In order for social media to contribute to e-learning, it must be used for a specific purpose. And this framework helps us identify how it can support or enhance learning. For us, it was clear that we could use social media in a community of practice to help learners organize their thoughts and tools, construct new knowledge, build social relationships with others outside of their industry to learn more. They could deepen their learning through creation of brand new content, and support sharing their knowledge and experience through a moderated platform. With 5 themes checked off, we felt we could look at what it would take to apply this to a community of practice. That led us to the pillars. So the 7 pillars are really focused more on what is it going to take for us to apply social media in a community of practice. The first thing it shared with us was that we would need to define the expectations of participants in the social media platform. What's acceptable, what isn't acceptable, and what that platform would be used for. The second pillar focused on getting us to prepare participants for how it would be used, recognizing that some people will have more or less experience using social media platforms. The third thing to focus on would be making it easy to use, keeping it very simple, very focused so that we weren't trying to do too many things within the platform. The fourth pillar, which really struck me, was about providing exclusive content. So in order to drive people to use the social platform, making sure that there were certain pieces of content or key things that are only available on that particular platform and nowhere else. The fifth pillar was to focus on leveraging the platform for group activities and actually encouraging groups to use the platform for sharing, building upon each other's work, and those types of things. The sixth pillar was for us to focus on moderating pace and tone by being active participants as facilitators, moderators, and instructors, because it's through that the learners will understand how best to use the platform. And the last pillar is to focus us on allowing anonymity within the platform so that people who are perhaps less confident or a little unsure or in an environment where confidentiality is key could still access learning through the platform. So, with a solid understanding of what it would take for us to support a community of practice using social media, The next question for me became, well, which platform is the right one for us to use? Through research, I was able to find pros and cons to the most common platforms. And what became clear was that in order to select the right platform, we would need to go back to the purpose for which we intended to use social media. An example would be, with limits of 140 characters, Twitter would not be a place where we could share detailed reflections of learning. There just would not be enough space for it. So, let's apply what we've learned to our challenge. Based on my research, 3 things became relatively clear. The first is that it's possible to leverage social media to support a community of practice. That became evident when we looked at the framework and found that 5 of 7 themes applied. The second is that there are some really clear guidelines on things we can do as a learning provider to improve our odds of success. But we'll need to actively participate in creating the right environment to make it happen. Lastly, based on our learner group and the type of content being developed and shared, I believe the best platform for us to leverage will be LinkedIn. That's the most professional community and the largest group, I think, that will attract our learners. We also learned that we can't build a social media platform to support a community of practice and then just leave it to learners to manage and grow. We need to be active participants. We also understand that we'll need to curate and create content, some of it being made exclusively available through this platform. That's going to take resource commitment and time from our team. And I don't know that we actually fully understood that going into this. Lastly, I believe we may need to create more than one community of practice to ensure we're allowing for almost sub-practices to evolve instead of one large innovation practice. So as an example, we might have a community of practice that focuses on idea generation versus another community of practice that might focus more on idea commercialization. I think that will help us really target who wants to get involved in which pieces versus having one very large community of practice around innovation that may be harder for people to navigate and search and find information. So what can we conclude? Well, we can conclude that social media can be a great tool for supporting communities of practice if, 1, we test the framework against the specific purpose of our community of practice. 2, we apply the pillars for success to improve our chances of creating a presence. And 3, select the right platform for our learners. So thank you for joining me on this learning journey. Please check out the references I used to inform this video, and be sure to post any questions you may have to our discussion forum so we can all deepen our learning together. Have a great week, everyone.